The MCG on Boxing Day is a magical place. It's the stuff that Australian cricket dreams of, and you never know what's going to happen. We've seen so many special moments over the years, but when the 94,199 fans rolled in today, I don't think any of them expected to see what did unfold. Sam Jordan here from 9 News, joined by Dan Brettig for The Age. Dan, you've also seen plenty of Boxing Days, 20 wickets falling. Have you ever seen anything like that?
Not at the MCG on Boxing Day. Obviously, we had a 19-wicket day in Perth at the start of the series. You kind of expect those sorts of things to happen in Perth. It's a bit wild in the West. But, yeah, MCG on Boxing Day, if you think back 15 years to 2010 when England knocked Australia over cheaply for 98, they then came out and I think they were none for 140 odd at stumps, so that, the game settled down. This game absolutely didn't settle down, and I think probably the telling thing about it was all a bit predictable. Australia was sent in, they were knocked over pretty cheaply, but you could see in the eyes and in the actions of the Australian bowlers, they were just keen to get out there and bowl. They knew that there was plenty in the wicket, and they knew that England were easy meat for them, really, and that's how it turned out.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, look, already questions are being asked about the surface here at the MCG. It has certainly raised a few eyebrows in the lead-up with Australia not going with a frontline spinner. We did expect seam movement. Steve Smith said as much yesterday with a smile. Is it fair for questions to already be asked of the curation team here at the G?
Well, we were here earlier today to hear from Stuart Fox and Todd Greenberg. Stuart Fox, the MCC chief executive. Todd Greenberg, the Cricket Australia chief executive, was talking about hoping that it went 5 days. Now, those expectations have been absolutely turned on their head. And yeah, like obviously there was a little bit of discussion among the ground staff here about, well, we've got some warm weather coming up. We've also had some cold weather coming in, so the pitch isn't quite as hard, and so it could potentially flatten out into a bit of a slow batting paradise later in the game if we don't leave grass on it early. But you've also got to look at these things in context. The way that England have been batting in this series, they just haven't been batting for time, really. The longest they batted, obviously, was the second innings in Adelaide. And Australia have also had some holes in their batting lineup. So to put a couple of batting lineups who are not the most confident in on a very juicy pitch in nice bowling conditions because it wasn't too hot. It was a recipe for a lot of wickets to fall, and 20 wickets falling. If you're a Cricket Australia administrator right now, you're just crossing fingers and toes and whatever you can find that someone starts to bat time tomorrow.
Well, actually, that's where I was going to go next. It's been much publicised that in Perth, Cricket Australia lost $4 million and that test match ended inside 2 days. It is a much bigger stadium here in Melbourne. It feels like there is far more on the line. I'm sure they're nervous about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could see as the day unfolded, the Boxing Day, of course, is the biggest day of the Australian cricket calendar, where you've got a lot of power brokers, a lot of heavy hitters watching. Both Cricket Victoria and Cricket Australia have hospitality suites up and going this week. And you could see it in the faces, the incredulity really of a lot of those invitees that this game is moving at a much faster pace than anyone would want, certainly anyone who's trying to make money out of cricket.
Yep, that's right. Okay, 20 wickets today. It feels like we have to go a long way back to the very start of this day, but Australia did settle on their 11 before the toss. It was Michael Neser and Jai Richardson getting the nod. There's been that thought around Jai Richardson throughout the week that he would get his opportunity here in Melbourne. Of course, selectors know just how much talent that he does have. He's had a wretched run with injury, which you have spoken about, and I don't think as many people expected him to bowl as few overs that he did when he did get the chance today, but it was England who won the toss. They chose to bowl without any hesitation from Ben Stokes, and you'd have to say, perhaps for the first time this series, for the most part, they got their bowling right.
Yeah, they did. The most interesting performer for England was obviously Josh Tong. He, someone who I think it was a bit of a surprise to a few people that he wasn't in the first picked team in Perth to start the series. He's a bit of an unusual bowler. He's very quick. He's actually quicker now than he was in England in 2023 when he made his debut. He's got a very high arm action, comes from past the perpendicular, so angles the ball in. Creates some interesting angles, a bit like Scott Boland actually, seaming the ball back in. And he was very, very good today. Exploited the conditions very well, bowled probably fuller than he usually would. And that was summed up by the ball he got through Steve Smith, which, you could see Steve's reaction almost instantaneously with getting bowled. motioning that the ball had seemed back quite sharply at him. And yeah, he was very effective. And the Australian top order didn't perform particularly well. And there was a fair bit of batter error there. You think about Travis Head, you think about Jake Weatherall. It's it was a case of some wickets being taken and some being given away.
Yeah, how do you view it, Dan? Because I feel as though when we're analysing the performances today from the Australians and the English that we will get to as well with the bat, everything just feels like it's taken with a bit of grain of salt, given the fact that we saw 20 wickets fall out there today. I'm sure there's, as you mentioned, the top order's certainly not happy with some of their decisions. For Cameron Green, it just felt like an opportunity that did go begging when he ran himself out when he desperately needs runs.
Yeah, I think that that moment would have been hugely frustrating for Green and for Australia. He had a partnership up and going with Michael Neser. They kind of had the English bowlers on the run the way that they were going. And I think what it will create is a little bit of thinking about if Cameron Green's going to be batting as low as 7, well, what about Bo Webster? Because we saw Bo Webster batting in that same position last summer against India and through the year in Sri Lanka and the West Indies. He didn't make any big scores, but in low-scoring matches on sporty pitches like this one, his game awareness, his sense of when it was important to stick around or when it was important to go on the attack was really good. He showed a lot of maturity there, and Cameron Green at the moment isn't really showing that maturity, I don't think. And so, if you think ahead to the Sydney Test, maybe it's time to give Bo Webster an opportunity in that 7 position.
It's certainly going to be one of the conversations moving forward. Australia's tail has shown plenty with the bat at times across this series as well. Maybe there was no motivation to show it today because they were very keen to get out there, and we saw a Y immediately, straight away. England, it felt like in the blink of an eye, 3 for 8, then it was 4 for 16.
Yeah, and I said before about batters getting themselves out as much as the bowlers. I think you could say that for Ben Duckett. Didn't really get the pace of the pitch early enough and was through the shot too early to gift Australia the first wicket. But after that, it was actually quite familiar stuff, really. If you think about the wonderful lines and lengths that the Australian bowlers were delivering, the fact they knew they were going to get something out of the surface. Jacob Bethel, I mean, that's as tough a return to Test cricket as you're going to get, coming out at number 3 early on that pitch. But yeah, so Jacob Bethel gets out. Zach Crawley, very similar dismissal to Mitchell Starc. We've seen a couple of times in this series. He's got that sort of statuesque forward defensive and it's kind of tailor-made for getting an edge if Mitchell Starc can wobble the ball off the seam. Joe Root hanging around for a while, never really looking comfortable and nicking off eventually. And from there it's 4 for 16 and there's really not much of a way back. Obviously Harry Brook decided to swing for the fences, including to his very first ball, which I think Stuart Broad was one of many to react quite entertainingly to that. But yeah, the fact is that if you're repeatedly being 3 and 4 down for not many, the rear guards are ultimately going to run out. And Harry Brook, Ben Stokes, Jamie Smith, those guys found themselves with too much to do. And that's without mentioning Scott Boland, who obviously comes in, first change bowler, snakes the ball back off the seam towards the batters, and the England batters really don't like that.
Yeah, that's right. Well, there was a comment that I thought was rather fitting in the second media room that I was sitting in today, alongside Cameron Ponsonby, who did appear alongside us in our digital recap after the 3rd Ashes Test in Adelaide, who said, this is going to be box office from England because you just know they're going to do something stupid. And I did use a more broadcast-friendly word there in stupid than what he did say, but you just had that feeling because right throughout this series they haven't been able to absorb pressure, and it was only going to go one of 2 ways today. And although Harry Brook did cash in for a little while there, his cards are always marked.
Yeah, and I think the fact that in a Test series that goes five matches, there's an accumulation of baggage, really, of scar tissue. And so for those who are going well, that baggage may be prize money and runs and wickets that contributes to confidence, which, Mitchell Starc has in particular. Scott Boland has in this series as well. But for England, it's the accumulation of, like I said, that scar tissue. And so the similar dismissals you saw today, I think that many of those were created in Perth. They were created in Brisbane and in Adelaide as much as they played out here. And you think about someone like Harry Brook. He's someone with all the talent in the world, but just how to moderate it and modulate it has been an issue. And then you get to a surface like this where you actually probably do have to try something like that. You do have to try to be aggressive, And yeah, I don't think I don't think there was much wrong with how he played today. And obviously, the way he ended up getting out was he was trying to play in an orthodox fashion of Scott Boland and got his front pad blown off. So that's the way it goes.
An extraordinary day, 20 wickets falling. Like I mentioned, there's some incredible stats getting around as well. It's the most on day one of an Ashes test here at the MCG in 124 years. It's the most against any opposition anywhere in Australia on any day of a test match since 1951. It feels incredible to be speaking about the chance of this test match wrapping up tomorrow. It's almost saying it like a joke. However, if 20 wickets fall again, the test match is over tomorrow. Dan, how do you see the way that this game is balanced at the moment? Obviously, Australia have an advantage, but we're not talking about many runs, and it does just feel like this test match is still there to be won.
Yeah, we spoke to Josh Tong at the end of play tonight. He was keen to emphasise that he didn't feel like the pitch had changed much in character over the course of the day, so there's still be plenty in it for the England bowlers tomorrow. I think one big question will be, how do the England bowlers back up a second day in a row? If we think back to the Perth test and the fact that they were defending, was it 205 in the fourth innings, the game had moved quickly, but they thought that they were a chance until they got out there and they weren't bowling as quickly, they weren't bowling as well or as accurately as they did in the first innings. So whether they can back up, I think, is a big question, and Australia will be eager to, in the shape of someone like Travis Head, put runs on the board quickly, put them under pressure, get the field spread, and of course he's got his honorary opening partner, Scotty Boland.
Yeah, that's exactly right. What an extraordinary way to finish that day. It actually is worth us speaking about as well. That could have been the biggest roar of the day when Scott Boland makes runs at the end.
Yeah. It really was. I mean, he's obviously a local hero of great repute, and he clearly one over to go. They made that decision. Had to face a pretty good over, it must be said, from Gus Atkinson, who I thought, he was one of England's most unfortunate players today. Bowled very well, batted with real heart to at least get them into three figures. And then in the last over, the fifth ball, Scott Boland skews off the edge. It's another drop catch, tough drop catch by Jacob Bethel in the gully. And then the last ball of the day is edged through the cordon to the boundary. And that you could see Gus Atkinson's reaction to that. That kind of summed up the day for England. And yeah, all to do again tomorrow.
Some day for Jacob Bethel, that's for sure. Look, the story of the day is going to be the 20 wickets that did fall. But what about the crowd that was in here as well? This has been, from a crowd perspective, a Cricket Australia dream. The only thing that hasn't been able to match it has been the duration of the test matches, but to get 94 and a little bit in there as well, what a result.
Yeah, it was one of those days where there were so many people here to see and so many stories to be told of people who've come here or planned for years to get here on this day.
I spoke to a guy who rode his bike over 6 months. He got here this morning, Rob from the UK. There was Tommy as well, who's been commuting for 125 days without flying. All roads did seem to lead to today.
Yeah, well, even before play this morning, I bumped into Andrew Dillon, the CEO of the AFL. He wasn't, by the way, dressed up in a suit to be in one of the hospitality rooms. He was just dressed up in jeans and a pullover to hang out with his mates in the members.
You better believe I dragged him in front of the camera as well.
Yeah, well, there you go. So yeah, it was one of those days, and I guess as you mentioned before, the potential cost if this game doesn't get into much of day three. It's a bit of a shame because obviously, today was unbelievable. Cricket Australia were clearly hoping to get 90,000 plus each of the first 3 days. Now we're not really sure whether the day three ticket holders, as they were in Perth, are going to be left disappointed.
And Dan, that is the perfect way to wrap things up as well. We will see you tomorrow for our day 2 recap. It could be the recap of the 4th Ashes test, but for more on what has been an extraordinary day, you can check out The Age and the Sydney Morning Herald, as well as the updates on 9 News. But we'll see you back here at the same time tomorrow.